Well, someone who's been accurately predicting based on the data a number of major trends worldwide for many, many years, who've seen catastrophe after catastrophe and has been spot on in predicting these trends is Gerald Celente. Of course, he is the founder of the Trends Journal, tracking where history happens before it happens. And he's out now with his 2023 predictions. But these predictions, I should point out, are based on data. This is research where things are going. And Gerald joins us now to kind of go through some of the top trends that we can expect in 2023. Gerald, great to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So I have to tell you, going through the latest Trends Journal for the year, a lot of hot button issues in here. And some of it is good. Some of it is scary. Some of it we're already in. And you have a lot of naysayers and deniers out there who say that we're not, this is not going to happen. I want to kind of go through, I figured maybe we kind of go through like the top 5 and kind of hit on these things. And we're already seeing some of these major things unfolding. So number 5 on your list is about artificial intelligence. And over the past few weeks, many of our viewers probably began to become more aware of like Chat GPT, these ideas of these artificial intelligence programs out there that can in fact write full essays for students, write code, write music. Hey, I need to write a new song, just put it into the internet, put it into Chat GPT, and boom, I've got my own song. I've got a new essay. I don't even have to do my own research anymore. So you see AI will own you in 2023. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, you really did it by what you just said. You know, in the King James Bible, and they say the meek shall inherit the earth. They misspelt it. The geeks have inherited the earth. And that's what this is. The people have lost their ability. I mean, look at music. You know, I love music, and I'm a real jazz fan. You know, names that people never heard of anymore, like a Count Basie or a Duke Ellington or Ella Fitzgerald. And now it's all synthesized. Every little piece of it is synthesized. Took the soul out of it. And now you're saying, I want to write an essay. I don't have to learn anything. I don't have to know anything. I'll ask the geek world to write it for me. And then again, you look at the studies coming out on what it's doing to young children, that they're so addicted to this thing, they're losing their minds and they're losing their freedom and they're losing their style. And again, it's taken over, that they own us. Like if you watched what they call news, let's say 25 minutes, that equals 1/4 of a newspaper, front of a newspaper. So the words spoken are a lot less than what you read in good time. So we're going down with AI. There's no question about it. And as they keep doing this, they keep getting more and more control over the people. And the people are dumbing down because they're relying on, hey, once upon a time, this is going to shock you. When I used to drive, I used to use a thing called a map. No, I'll just,
What's that?
By the way, I don't carry a cell phone. I did work for the cellular telecommunications industry going back to the early 1990s, when they had boxes in the trunks of cars with aerials. And I've been reading about radio frequency radiation since then. University of California, Berkeley, their study, if you're on a cell phone for 17 minutes a day for 10 years, your chances of getting a brain tumor only increase by 60%.
Holy smokes. Yeah, this stuff is scary, Gerald. I mean, I see my son. We'll move on to the other topics here, but I mean, I see... when my son was younger, I remember him sort of cheating one time on a math question. Like he asked Amazon Alexa, for the answer. And I said, you can't do that. Like, how are you ever going to think on your own? So that he never did that again. But that's how it starts. And now they can write essays for you. I think you're going to see this year, I think you're absolutely right about that. We're going to see more and more of this. I think you're going to see scripts written, television news. I mean, I think you're going to see people being laid off because they don't even need to hire script writers anymore. It's just going to be all part of this process. I want to talk about the Fed. Go ahead.
Just to stay on that for just 1 second. Also, now it's going into more into robotics.
Right.
So it's taking the jobs away from all those people as well.
Right, and actors, and I think it's going to be transformative and scary. Let's talk about the Fed and cash, digital. Number 4 on your list is dirty cash to digital trash. Now, during the pandemic, we heard, don't touch cash because it might have COVID on it. Now you're seeing a pushback on that, saying, no, maybe a way to stay away from the Federal Reserve taking your money and trying to move towards a digital currency is to actually have cash in your own pocket and keep these globalists out of your pocket. So what do you mean by dirty cash to digital trash, number 4 on your list for 2023?
We are facing the worst geopolitical and socioeconomic crisis in modern history. I've been at this for 43 years. I've never seen anything like this. Let's go back. By the way, you called it the pandemic, and that's what everybody is saying because that's what the media started selling. Now, this didn't happen, quote, because of the pandemic. It happened because of politicians. They're the ones that lock down every place. They're the ones that have caused incalculable damage to billions of people around the planet with these lockdowns. And they're the ones that caused this, where we're going to dirty cash, from dirty cash to digital trash. We're going to lock everybody down, but here's a lot of free money for you. We're just going to make up this crap. Here, don't go to work. Here's money. Here's money. Hey, I'm the Federal Reserve. I'm the central bankers over there in Europe. We're going to stay with negative interest rates as inflation's skyrocketing, but we're full of crap. We're going to lie and say it's only temporary and transitory. And of course, in the new woke world, why don't we call it transgendatory? So what we're going to do is we're going to keep pumping out all of this cheap money so we can artificially inflate what the politicians destroyed. Hey, look at that housing market in America, huh? And around a lot of places around the world. Woof! Prices up over 40% since 2020. 40%, yeah, because you can borrow money for nothing. Don't worry about it. So now they know this crash is coming. So what they're going to do is here, how about this? With the Ukraine war going on, we'll make something up. Ladies and gentlemen, our banks have been hacked by the Russians. Well, we know they stole your money, but we're going to do the best we can to make you give it back to you. So we're going to invent digital money. They're going to come up with an excuse to go with digital cash.
Yeah.
And digital, because 3 reasons. Politicians, they never work a day in their life. All they do is suck off the public tit. They want every penny that they can get from us in the name of tax money. So now they know every penny we spent, where we spent it, how we spent it, what we spent it on. So they know everything more about us. Going back into the AI world, by the way, we own you. That's part of that. So now and this is AI and digital trash is the same thing. It's all connected. So now they have complete control over us by knowing by getting all our money. And they cover up their disaster that they created with all of this cheap money that they printed up.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think we've been predicting that on this show for a little while now, seeing that the move towards wanting to be able to get out disaster money quickly to people under the auspices of, hey, if there's a hurricane, you can't get access to your banks. Don't worry, the Fed is here. We'll just be able to deposit some digital currency right in your bank account. No problem. We'll track everything. Social credit score. You've been spending too much money going to the movies lately, so we're going to keep you home. You can't leave the house. We see what you're spending. We're tracking it all. It's really, really terrifying. Number 3 on your list, Gerald, is aging power. So when I saw that headline, what I immediately thought was an aging power grid. Am I right? Am I right about that?
No, it's about people getting older and the power you have as you age to get in better shape than you can. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just turned 76. And one of my spirit of 76s, besides fighting for the spirit of 1776, is the older you get, the more you have to do to stay in shape. And that is so important because I don't want to become an inmate in a nursing home. Matter of fact, I just brought my sister up from a nursing home to live with me over here. And because every time I go visit her, this is what it looks like when you go in a nursing home. This is what the people look like.
Yeah. Oh, it's awful. It's awful. And I
Yeah.
have to say, what really bothers me about that, Gerald, a number of years ago, read a number of books on this and how you have societies, specifically like in Okinawa, right, where you have the aged population there is the most revered, right? You go to the elder in the area and that person is a part of the community. They're 103 years old. They have more people that live to be over 100 years old because they're active. They're part of the community. They're not just shipped off and stuck in nursing homes where they're catching flies with their mouths, unfortunately. And I think it's really, really troubling. And of course, it's a for-profit industry, right? You make a lot of money sending people off to these nursing homes.
Well, again, you look at it and you said, that you look up to the elders. I didn't know what I know now. I mean, I didn't start growing up until I was about 55, When I was a kid, we'd be eating dinner. My father's sitting at the table, I'm sitting to the left, and he'd say to me, son, they say that youth is wasted on the young. Then he'd take a couple more bites and he'd say that we're talking about you. So it's a process. So the aging power, you look at the founding fathers, they weren't kids, and that's what we really have to get into, is because the baby boomers are now aging and there's going to be a real crisis ahead of us. So the aging power is a big thing that we're looking at, that a lot of entrepreneurs, by the way, could profit from by getting involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, you see, male sperm count is down 50% over the last few decades. And you talk about processed foods and the diet. So you're having all of these countries. Italy has doesn't have young people anymore. You have all of these aging populations in Japan and Italy and Spain, and they're giving away free land if you'll move back because they don't have people anymore. You're right. This is really, really, really troubling, and we'll see more of that in this year. Number 2 on your list is your top trend for 2023, a market meltdown, an economic calamity. Back in the fall, we were talking about get ready for the jobs layoff to start happening here after Christmas time. Can you break down how you see this market melting down?
Yeah, it's very simple. It's all about, you got to have cheap money for the money junkies. They need that monetary methadone to keep playing the markets. End of story. And the higher interest rates go up, the deeper it goes down. So we cannot forecast what the Federal Reserve is going to do. But if they stay on the track to continue to raise interest rates, every time they raise interest rates, this market is going to collapse more and more. I'm going to read you something from the January 7th Wall Street Journal.
So this is just a few days ago.
Dow jumped 700 points on signs of moderating wage gains. Oh, isn't that nice? The market went up because people are making less. And here's a quote. Investors, you ready for this, are celebrating the fact that the average hourly earnings number was less than expected, said Michael Larone, chief investment strategist of State Street Global Advisors. Quote, there was fear going in that wage inflation would remain hot. How terrible it is that the plantation workers of Slavelandia are making more money. So going back to this, the reason they're saying this is because they're hoping that the Fed doesn't raise interest rates higher. This is, by the way, disgusting. It's disgusting that they say something like that, oh, it's great news that wages aren't rising fast, so we can get more cheap money and gamble in the markets. Mm-hmm. So going back to it, it all depends on what the Fed does. Should the Fed raise interest rates, and on February 1st, another 50 basis points, you're going to see this thing go down big and hard. If they raise it 25 basis points, they'll kind of hold it for a while. But we see this thing crashing out. Again, should they keep raising interest rates? But let's go back to December 2018. You had the December markets. They were crashing, these stock markets. And what happened? Donald Trump forced Jerome Powell, the Fed head, to lower interest rates in January, made the announcement. But the markets went back up. And that's what they may do again. But we guarantee that they will definitely lower interest rates in the lead up to the 2024 presidential reality show in the United States, because they always do.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing a round of these layoffs now. I think it's going to be a really, really troubling year. So we're starting to see some of that, and there's a false sense of security over the past few days with some of these economic experts saying, Goldman Sachs and others saying, well, we don't see such a bad recession coming to Europe and other parts of the world. But then you have the World Bank saying, no, we're in for a real deep pile of crap here. Speaking of big pile of crap, is number one on your list. And your top trend for 2023 is World War III. Now, last night, you had Vladimir Zelensky showing up the Golden Globes saying, please, continue to send us money. Please continue to send us money, but we will not see World War III. To which I sat there scratching my head thinking, aren't we already in? All of NATO is fighting Russia. Aren't we already in World War III, Gerald?
Yes. Matter of fact, you go back to the Trends Journal cover on February 22nd, 2 days before the Russia invaded, and it was COVID war, Ukraine war, world war.
Yeah, I'm looking at the journal cover. So you guys predicted this back then.
Yeah. And by the way, this is the Trends Journal from spring of 2014. Article in here by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. There's the cover. There's the article inside. Washington is driving the world to the final war. And what's it about? It's about the United States coup of Viktor Yanukovych in Ukraine, led by Victoria Nuland, the Undersecretary of State of the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner Barack Obama, and the overthrow of the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych of Ukraine by the United States. People have no idea. Oh, by the way, the big news that went on for like a week and a half or something, a football player had his heart problems after he got tackled. That was the big news day after day after day after day after day. The people don't have a clue what's going on. All they do is they go into the propaganda. So now let's go back to World War III. Lloyd Austin, the U.S. Defense Secretary, who was a former general. A general is the U.S. Defense Secretary. Oh, Celente, forget about that. He was also sitting on the board of directors of Raytheon, the second largest defense contractor in the United States. Oh, that Lloyd Austin? Yeah, admitting that there are American, quote, advisors in Ukraine. But you know what they're doing? They're monitoring the weapons and helping the Ukrainians use the weapons properly. Oh, you mean they're firing the weapons at the Russians? You got it?
Right.
Oh, and now they're bringing the Ukrainians over here to show them how to use the Patriot missiles.
Yeah, training in Oklahoma.
Isn't that a great Orwellian name, a Patriot missile?
Right, that don't work.
We're at war. We're at war. And it is going to be a false flag event or a nuclear exchange that will make it official. You go back to World War II. They all tell us World War II began when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Before the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, 80% of the American people were against getting involved in the European war.
Right.
And then you can look it up, History Today. Totally legit, right? You know what happened in June of 1941? Franklin Delano Roosevelt put sanctions on Japan, cut back almost 3/4 of their global trade, and banned 88% of the oil going into the country. And you know why? Because those dirty Japanese went into French Indochina on their way to China. What the hell do I care about? Oh, French Indochina? You mean the ones that the French colonized, called Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, so they can get their tin and their rubber and all their other natural resources? That's why he put sanctions on them? Same thing going on now. What people got to get in their brains is that we got demonic, crazy people in charge. And all of these tough boys like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and little Chucky Schumer and all these little clown boys and girls playing politicians, they couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag, but boy, they want to go send everybody else's money in their lives to go fight other wars. And those dirty Russians, yeah, how about that 20-year Afghan war of the United States? How about the United States invasion of Iraq based on lies that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction? Oh, I grew up during the Vietnam War. Hey, the Americans only killed over 3 million Vietnamese and ruined the place with Agent Orange. And why are we getting involved in the Ukraine war? This thing's been going on between Russia and Ukraine for what, 300 years? Right. They're taking down the statue of Catherine the Great. Oh, what's that, 1750? You know, again, the facts in here, violation of the Minsk agreement, the agreement made by Gorbachev and Bush Sr. that NATO would not move 1 inch further. And now there were 16 of them then and now almost 30 of them now. So if we had the Russians up in Canada and the Chinese down in Mexico with missiles aimed at us, and doing maneuvers on our coasts and flying 14 miles off them with their bombers, we'd be happy as can be in America.
Oh, yeah, we would love that. I would say, imagine if the Chinese put warships right in the Gulf of Mexico. How would we react to that? In the same way that we're in the South China Sea. Gerald, a friend of mine said the other day off camera, he said, the Trends Journal is one of the greatest sources of information. And and it really is, because as you pointed out back in 2014, covering these stories well ahead of time, people forget their history, and you're predicting these things well ahead of time. I would encourage everyone to go grab the latest copy of the Trends Journal, go through, because you've got a whole list here of what we can expect in 2023. We just scratched the surface from talking about housing problems, climate change issues, university crash. That's another big one that you cover in the latest Trends Journal. Where can people find it, Gerald?
Trendsjournal.com, trendsjournal.com. Oh, and by the way, you mentioned that there's going to be a office building bust, the likes of which we've never seen before. You know, this remote work it's a real thing. People are not going to go back the way they used to. So all the businesses that depended on commuters, it's going to be a different world. And you're going to see, again, an office building bust like we've never seen in history.
Wow. And the globalists want it. They want you to stay home. They want these electric car systems running. They don't want you driving your cars. They want you to stay home, work from home, reduce climate change, reduce CO2 emissions, all part of this process. So we just gave people a taste of what's in here. Gerald, great to see you. Happy New Year to you. Thank you for taking some time out and giving us some of these nuggets of wisdom. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Clayton, for all you do. I'm very honored to be on your show. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.